perfect. She's going to need this back at the house." Those words came out of my son-in-law's mouth while he held a maid's uniform, a blue uniform with a white apron that his mother had just given to my daughter Michelle at her own wedding. I watched as my little girl's eyes filled with tears. I saw how she squeezed that uniform between her trembling hands, and something inside me, something that had been asleep for 60 years, woke up. My name is Margaret Fisher. I am 60 years old, and what happened that night at the Grand Estate reception hall changed everything. But to understand what I did, I need you to listen from the beginning, because there are stories that cannot be told in a single night. There are humiliations that are woven slowly, with fake smiles and poisoned words. Michelle met Robert 3 years before that wedding. It was January. I was making coffee in the kitchen when she arrived almost floating. "Mom, I met someone." That is how it all started, with that innocent phrase, with those bright eyes that I had not seen since she was a child. Robert came from a family with a well-known name in the wealthy Oak Creek neighborhood. His mother, Mrs. Constance Sterling, widow of Mendez, had been the queen of her small kingdom all her life, a woman who measured people by the size of their houses and the shine of their jewelry. The first time I met her was at a cafe downtown. She arrived 30 minutes late. "Oh, forgive me, Margaret," she said without looking me in the eyes. My driver got confused with the address. She never called me by my name again. From that day on, I was simply Michelle's mom, as if I did not have my own identity. My daughter was so in love that she did not see the signs, or maybe she saw them and preferred to ignore them. "Mom, Robert is different," she told me. "He respects me, he loves me," and I wanted to believe her. God knows I wanted to believe her. The months passed. Robert was polite to me. Correct, but there was something about the way he smiled when his mother spoke, as if they shared a secret joke that the rest of the world did not understand. One day, 6 months before the wedding, Michelle came home quieter than usual. She sat at the kitchen table where we had always solved life's problems. "Mrs. Constance says I need to learn to cook better," she murmured without looking up at me. "She says that in her family, they have standards." I felt something cold run down my back. "And what did Robert say?" "He laughed, Mom. He said his mother was right." That night I could not sleep. I stayed looking at the ceiling, thinking about all the times I had allowed others to make me feel small, all the times I had stayed silent to keep the peace, and I swore to myself that my daughter would not inherit my silence. But Michelle was determined to get married, and I started making plans that no one imagined. I hired a lawyer, a good lawyer. I asked him for absolute discretion. "I want to buy a house," I told him, in my daughter's name, only in her name. He looked at me over his glasses. "Are you sure, Mrs. Fisher? It is a major decision. I have never been more sure of anything in my life. For months, I worked double shifts. I sold the jewelry my mother had left me. I sold the car I liked so much. Every dollar I earned, I saved with a single purpose. Michelle knew nothing. No one knew anything. The wedding day arrived. The hall was decorated with white roses and blue hydrangeas, all paid for by the Sterling family, of course. They made sure all the guests knew it. The ceremony was beautiful. My little girl looked radiant in her lace dress. I cried as every mother cries watching her daughter walk toward an uncertain future. Then came the reception, the toasts, the fake laughter, the looks of superiority from Mrs. Constance and her circle of friends. And then came the moment for the gifts. Mrs. Constance stood up from her table. She was carrying a box wrapped in gold paper. She walked to where Michelle was with that smile I had already learned to recognize, that smile that did not reach her eyes. "My dear Michelle," she said loudly so everyone could hear, "I want to give you something very special, something practical." She opened the box slowly, deliberately, and took out a domestic maid's uniform, navy blue with a white apron with the name Michelle embroidered on the chest. The hall went silent. "So you can be presentable when you do the housework," continued Mrs. Constance. "A wife must know her place." Mrs. Constance's friends laughed discreetly behind their napkins. Robert walked over. He took the uniform in his hands, and with that smile I already hated, he said, "Perfect, Mom. She's going to need this back at the house." I saw the tears running down my daughter's face. I saw how she tried to smile, to keep her composure, not to make a scene. And at that moment, everything became clear. I stood up from my chair, slowly. My hands were trembling, but my voice came out firm, clear. "What an interesting gift, Mrs. Constance," I said, walking toward them. "Now allow me to give my daughter mine." I took a small box out of my purse, lined in blue velvet. "Open it, my love," I said to Michelle. She looked at me with those eyes full of tears and confusion. She opened the box with shaking hands. Inside were 2 documents folded with care. She unfolded them, and when she read what they said, sometimes we trust too much in those we should not. Have you also been disappointed by someone you loved? Tell me your story in the comments. I want to read it. Michelle held those papers in her hands as if they were made of glass. Her eyes went over the lines again and again, trying to understand what she was seeing. "Mom, what is this?" "Read it out loud, my love," I told her. My voice came out calmer than I felt inside. She swallowed. The tears kept falling, but now for a different reason. "Property deed." She began to read with a trembling voice, "House located at Magnolia Lane, number 43, Willow Creek neighborhood. Owner, Michelle Sarah Fisher." The silence in the hall was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Mrs. Constance had lost all composure. Her face, always so carefully made up, had turned pale and then red, very red. "What does this mean?" asked Robert. He was no longer smiling. "Does it mean," I said, looking him directly in the eyes, "that my daughter has her own roof, her own house, in her name, only in her name?" Michelle continued reading the second document. Her lips moved in silence. "And this?" "Mom, this is a trust deed. Yes, my life. A legal trust that establishes that this house is yours and yours alone, that no one can claim rights over it, not even your husband. I need you to understand something. I am not a rich woman. I never have been. I have worked since I was 16, first in my uncle's stationery store, then at the local high school as a secretary, later as an administrator. Every dollar I have earned in my life I have sweated for. I have worked for it with my own hands. But there are things money cannot buy. Dignity, for example, respect, the certainty that your daughter will not depend on anyone to have a place to sleep. The house I bought was not a mansion. It was a simple house with 3 bedrooms, a small garden, and a fountain in the patio. But it was hers, completely hers. "I do not understand," said Robert. His voice had changed. He was no longer the polite and correct son-in-law. He was a man who had just realized that something was not going according to his plans. "Why would you do something like this? Do you not trust me?" I walked closer to him, very slowly. I looked at him as only a mother can look at the man who is about to hurt her daughter. "It is not about trust, Robert. It is about my daughter never having to wear that uniform your mother gave her. It is about the fact that if one day she decides she no longer wants to be in a place where she's humiliated, she has somewhere to go." Mrs. Constance finally found her voice. "This is an insult to our family." Her shrill voice echoed in the hall. Some people started to whisper, "Are you insinuating that my son will not take good care of his wife?" "I am not insinuating anything, Mrs. Sterling. I'm only making sure my daughter has options." The guests began talking among themselves, some with approval, others scandalized. Robert's cousin, the one who had always been kind to me, gave me a small nod from his table. Robert's father, Mr. Ernest, who had been quiet all night, stood up heavily from his chair. He was an older man, 72 years old, with that air of authority that years of bossing a company give. "Margaret," he said, approaching me, everyone expected him to scold me, to defend his wife, but he did not do it. He approached Michelle and took her hands in his. "Honey, your mother is a very wise woman, and you are very lucky to have her." Then he looked at me. "I could not do this for my own daughter. I wish I had done it. Maybe today she would not be living a marriage that makes her unhappy." Mrs. Constance let out a choked scream. "Ernest, how dare you?" "I dare because it is the truth, Constance. I dare because I am tired of seeing how you treat people as if they were less than you." The reception never recovered from that moment. Some guests started saying goodbye early. Others stayed but with uncomfortable faces, not knowing where to look. Michelle hugged me so hard I thought she was going to break my ribs. "Thank you, Mom," she whispered in my ear. "Thank you. Do not thank me yet, my life. This is just beginning." And she was right, because what happened that night was just the beginning. Let me tell you how I arrived at that moment, how I came to make that decision that changed everything. 6 months earlier, when Michelle had told me about Mrs. Constance's comment about her cooking, I had gone to visit my sister Lucy. Lucy is 2 years older than me. All her life she has been prettier, thinner, more elegant. She married young to a man from a good family. Richard, an educated man, good-looking, with a prosperous import business. For 20 years, Lucy lived in a beautiful house in the hills. She had a driver, she had maids, everything a woman could desire, except respect. Richard cheated on her. Everyone knew it. He did not even bother to hide it. And when Lucy finally had the courage to ask him for a divorce, she discovered something terrible. The house was in his name. The cars were in his name. The bank accounts were in his name. Lucy had nothing. After 20 years of marriage, of raising 3 children, of organizing her husband's business dinners, of being the perfect wife, she had nothing. She had to return to our parents' house at 42 years old with her children, without money, without options. The day I went to visit her, I found her in the kitchen of the house where we grew up. Our mother had already passed away 2 years prior. The house was empty and sad. Lucy was making chamomile tea. Her hands, which before were always perfectly manicured, now looked rough, without polish, with short nails. "Do you know what is the worst part, Maggie?" she said without looking at me. "It is not that he cheated on me. It is not that he left me. The worst part is realizing that I was never the owner of my own life. Everything I had was borrowed, and when I was no longer useful to him, he took it all away." We stayed in silence drinking that bitter tea. "Michelle is getting married," I told her finally. Lucy looked up. In her eyes, I saw something that broke my heart. Fear. "Do not let the same thing happen to her, Maggie. Please do not let her make my mistake." That conversation changed something in me. It made me see that love is not enough, that goodwill is not enough, that promises are not enough. That same night, I started doing calculations. How much did I have saved? How much could I get? How much did I need? My salary as an administrator was not bad. After 30 years working, I had managed to save something. Not much, but something. My mother's jewelry was kept in a safe in my closet. A pearl necklace, some white gold earrings, a ring with a small diamond that my father had given her on their 25th anniversary. "Forgive me, Mom," I whispered that night as I took it out of its case. "But this is for your granddaughter. I know you would understand. I went to 3 different jewelry stores to get the best price." In the last one, the owner was an older gentleman who looked at me with tired eyes. "They are very beautiful pieces," he told me. "Are you sure you want to sell them?" "Completely sure." He gave me a fair price. Not excellent, but fair. I signed the papers without hesitation. Then I sold my car, a 2008 Nissan that had lasted me years. It was old but reliable. A young student bought it from me for his wife. "It is so she can take the kids to school," he explained with a shy smile. "It is going to last her many years," I told him. "Take good care of it." I started taking public transportation. The bus, the subway, long walks under the sun. At 60 years old, it was not easy, but every time I felt my legs hurting or my back killing me, I thought of Michelle, of the uniform Mrs. Constance was probably already planning to give her, and I kept walking. I also started working weekends. I got an extra job teaching computer classes to seniors at a community center. They did not pay much, but every dollar counted. Michelle noticed I was more tired. "Mom, are you okay? You look very thin." "I am perfect, my love, just a little busy with work." I could not tell her the truth. Not yet. I needed it to be a surprise. I needed that on that day, on her wedding day, when Mrs. Constance tried to humiliate her, she would have something real, something tangible, something no one could take away from her. 3 months before the wedding, I finally had enough money for the down payment. I went to see houses with a real estate agent a coworker had recommended. I am looking for something simple but dignified, I told him. With a garden, if possible, a place where my daughter can feel at peace. We saw 7 houses. Some were in bad shape. Others were in areas I did not like. But the eighth one was perfect. It was on a quiet street in Willow Creek, a 2-story house painted a light peach color. It had a small fountain in the patio, with blue and white ceramic tiles. The bougainvillea grew over the back wall, filling everything with magenta color. "This one," I said. "This is it." The agent looked at me surprised. "Do you not want to see the inside?" "Yes, of course, but I already know this is the one." We went in. The interior smelled of fresh paint and clean air. The living room was small but bright. The kitchen had enough space for a big table. The bedrooms were on the 2nd floor with windows overlooking the garden. In the master bedroom, there was eyes that always seemed to be smiling. "Margaret," he said in a low voice, "what you did there, your husband would be very proud." My husband, Charles. He had been dead for 8 years. A massive heart attack while waiting for the bus to go to work. He was barely 52 years old. We never managed to have much. He worked in a hardware store, I at the school. But we were happy. He respected me. He valued me. He never made me feel less. "Thank you, Uncle," I said with a broken voice. When Charles died, I thought I was never going to be able to move forward. Michelle was 17. She was still in high school. Suddenly, I found myself alone, with a daughter to support, with bills to pay, with an uncertain future. But I kept going, because that is what women do. We keep going even if the world is crumbling. And now, 8 years later, I was here, watching my daughter get married, protecting her in the only way I knew how. Robert finally returned. His face had changed completely. He was no longer the loving groom. He was a stranger in a tie. "Michelle, we need to talk." "Not now, Robert. It is our wedding. Precisely for that reason, we need to talk. My mother just gave me the best gift anyone could give me." Michelle interrupted him. And in her voice there was something new, something I had never heard before. Firmness. Robert clenched his jaw. For a moment I thought he was going to explode, but he did not do it. Instead, he forced a smile. "It is fine. We will talk later." He walked away again, this time toward the bar. He ordered a whiskey, then another. Mr. Ernest approached me while I watched Robert drink. "My son is not used to things not going how he expects. I know." His mother raised him like that, believing the world owes him something, that people are tools for his comfort. I looked at the old man. His eyes were tired. "Why did you stay with her all these years, Mr. Ernest?" He sighed deeply. "Cowardice, Margaret. Pure and simple cowardice. And because when you are 60 years old and have a built life, divorcing seems harder than enduring. But not a day goes by that I do not regret it." He stayed silent a moment. Then he added, "Do not let your daughter make my mistake. If that boy does not treat her well, if he makes her feel small, if he mistreats her in any way, you already have a place to return to. I know, and I am going to be watching. I give you my word." That was one of the saddest conversations of my life, seeing an older man admitting he wasted decades in a loveless marriage. The party ended near midnight, much earlier than planned. The newlyweds had to leave that same night for Cancun, a week at a resort, all-inclusive. I helped Michelle change from her wedding dress into her travel clothes. It was a simple white dress with embroidered flowers. "Mom," she said while I zipped it up, "how did you know? How did you know I needed this?" I told her about Lucy, about how my sister had lost everything, about how I had promised that the same thing would not happen to my daughter. Aunt Lucy never told me that. Aunt Lucy feels shame. She should not have it, but she does. That is how women of our generation are. They taught us that the failure of a marriage is the wife's fault, that if a man leaves, it is because we were not enough. That is horrible, Mom. I know, my life. That is why I want you to be different, that you never accept being treated as less, that you never depend completely on anyone. We hugged. I cried again. It seemed I was not going to stop crying that night. When we went down, Robert was already waiting by the car, a black BMW his father had given him. Mrs. Constance approached to say goodbye. She had already recovered her composure. She was perfectly combed, perfectly made up, perfectly furious. "Michelle, daughter," she said with a sweet voice that fooled no one. "I hope you enjoy your honeymoon. When you return, we have to talk about arrangements, about where you are going to live." "We already have somewhere to live, mother-in-law," responded Michelle. Her voice sounded more secure now. "I have a house your mother bought to control you, a house my mother bought to protect me. There is a difference." Mrs. Constance pressed her lips together until they formed a thin line. Then she turned toward me. "You are a very clever woman, Margaret, very clever. But this is not going to stay like this. It was not my intention for it to stay in any way, Mrs. Sterling. It was only my intention to protect my daughter. You protected her from my family, as if we were her enemies. I did not protect her from your family. I protected her from vulnerability. There is a difference." We looked at each other for a long time. Two women of similar generations, two mothers but with completely opposite visions of the world. Robert honked the horn. He was impatient to leave. Michelle hugged me one last time. "I love you, Mom. Thank you. I love you too. My life. Call me when you arrive." I watched as the black BMW drove away. The cans tied to the bumper made noise against the pavement. Inside, I managed to see Robert saying something to Michelle. She was looking out the window. I stayed standing at the entrance of the hall until the car lights disappeared completely. "You did the right thing," Uncle Arthur told me, putting a hand on my shoulder. "I hope so." "Did you? You will see." That night I returned alone to my apartment, a small 2-bedroom apartment in the city. The walls were full of photographs of Michelle as a baby, as a child, as a teenager, at her college graduation, and now married. I sat on the sofa with a cup of herbal tea. I could not sleep. I kept thinking about everything that had happened, about Robert's face when he saw the documents, about Mrs. Constance's words, about the new firmness in my daughter's voice. At 2 a.m, my phone rang. It was Michelle. "Mom, we arrived at the hotel. How was the flight?" Silence on the other end. Then, "Robert is angry. He has not spoken to me since we left the hall." I felt my heart squeeze. "And how are you?" "I do not know, Mom. I'm confused. I should be happy. It is my honeymoon. But is he punishing you with silence?" "Yes." I took a deep breath before speaking. "My life, listen to me well. If a man punishes you with silence, with emotional mistreatment, making you feel guilty for protecting yourself, that man does not love you. He wants to control you. And those are two very different things. Mom, we just got married. I know. And maybe Robert is just processing everything. Maybe tomorrow he wakes up and everything is better. But if it is not like that, if in these days he treats you badly, if he makes you feel that you did something wrong by accepting my gift, then you already know who he really is." I heard she was crying on the other end. "I am afraid, Mom. I know, my love. But you are no longer unprotected. Remember that. You have a house. You have options. You have a way out." We talked a few minutes more. Then she hung up because Robert had come out of the shower. I could not sleep all night. The following days were torture. Michelle called me every day, but the calls were brief, tense. I could hear in her voice that something was not right. "How is everything going?" I asked her. "Fine, Mom. Everything is fine." But I knew it was not true. On the 5th day of her honeymoon, she called me crying. "Mom, I need to tell you something. Tell me, my life." Last night, Robert and I had a horrible argument. He told me that the gift you gave me was a manipulation, that you are turning me against him, that no true wife needs to have properties in her name because she should trust her husband. I squeezed the phone so hard my knuckles turned white. "And what did you tell him?" I told him it was not true, that you were only protecting me. And then he told me that if I did not sell the house and put the money in a joint account with him, it was because I did not trust him, that if I did not trust him, then why had we gotten married? Michelle. He spent the whole night without talking to me, Mom. He slept on the sofa in the suite. This morning we packed in silence. The return flight is tomorrow, and I I do not know what to do. My love, listen to me. What Robert is doing has a name. It is called emotional manipulation. He's making you feel guilty for something that is not your fault. He's punishing you for having something that is yours. But Mom, maybe you are right. Maybe I should trust him more. Trusting does not mean handing over everything. Trusting does not mean giving up your security. Trusting does not mean putting yourself in a position of complete vulnerability. She cried and cried. I do not know what to do. Yes, you do, my life. Deep down, you know, but you are afraid. And it is okay to be afraid. But do not let fear make you take decisions that are going to hurt you. We hung up. I stayed sitting in the kitchen, looking at the cup of coffee getting cold in front of me. I thought about calling Robert, about telling him exactly what I thought of him, about screaming at him that my daughter was not his property. But I did not do it, because Michelle needed to learn to defend herself. I could give her the tools, the house, the security, but the strength to use them, that she had to find herself. The next day, we went to pick them up at the airport. Mrs. Constance, Mr. Ernest, and I. An awkward scene if there ever was one. Mrs. Constance did not say a word to me. She behaved as if I were invisible. Mr. Ernest, on the other hand, greeted me warmly. How have you been, Margaret? Worried. I know. Me too. When Michelle and Robert came out of customs, I could see immediately that something had changed. They walked separately, him in front, her behind, as if they were two strangers who casually took the same flight. Michelle hugged me tight. She was thinner. She had dark circles under her eyes. My love, are you okay? Now I am, Mom. Robert greeted his parents. He ignored my presence completely. In the parking lot, Mrs. Constance approached them. Children, come to dinner at the house today. We have to talk about your plans, about where you are going to live. Robert agreed immediately. Yes, Mom, let's go. But Michelle said, No, thank you, mother-in-law. I am very tired. I want to go to my house to rest. Your house? Asked Mrs. Constance with poison in her voice. Are you referring to the house your mother bought to control you? And then Michelle did something I will never forget. She straightened up, lifted her chin, looked her mother-in-law directly in the eyes, and said, I am referring to my house, the house that is in my name, the house where my husband and I are going to live. And if he has a problem with that, then we have bigger problems than deciding where to dinner. The silence that followed was absolute. Robert looked at her with wide eyes. Mr. Ernest smiled slightly. Mrs. Constance turned red as a tomato. And I felt I could breathe for the first time in days. My daughter had found her voice. I still ask myself if I did the right thing. And you? What would you have done in my place? The house in Willow Creek was empty when we arrived. Michelle had insisted that we go directly from the airport. Robert drove the BMW in silence, with his jaw clenched. I followed him in a taxi. When we arrived, the afternoon sun illuminated the vines growing over the wall. The fountain in the patio sang softly. Everything looked exactly as I had imagined that first time I saw the property. Michelle got out of the car and stood in front of the main door. It was solid wood, walnut color, with a wrought iron knocker shaped like a moon. It is beautiful, Mom, she whispered. I took the keys out of my bag. 2 sets, one for her, another spare for me, just for safety. It is yours, my life, all yours. Robert took the suitcases out of the car with abrupt movements. He let them drop in the entrance with more force than necessary. Are you going to let us in, or are we going to stay here admiring the facade? His voice was sharp. I opened the door. The interior smelled new, of fresh paint and possibilities. The living room had clay tile floors. The windows faced the garden. There was a small dining room that connected with the kitchen. Everything was empty, of course. There was no furniture yet. I thought you could decorate it to your taste, I told Michelle. Choose your own furniture. Make this place truly yours. She walked through every room, touching the walls, looking through the windows, discovering every corner. Her eyes shone in a way I had not seen in weeks. Robert, on the other hand, walked with his hands in his pockets, examining everything with a face of disgust. It is small, he said finally. It has 3 bedrooms, 2 full baths, living room, dining room, kitchen, and garden. I responded. For a young couple, it is more than enough. My apartment downtown is bigger. This is your house, not a rented apartment. He looked at me with cold eyes. It is not our house, it is Michelle's. You made sure of that, right? Exactly. We went up to the second floor. The master bedroom had that balcony I had liked so much. From there, you could see the fountain, surrounded by ferns and small white flowers that I myself had planted a week before the wedding. Michelle went out to the balcony. The wind moved her hair. For a moment, she looked like a little girl again. My little girl. Mom, this is perfect. Robert entered the bedroom, looked around, and let out a dry laugh. Perfect? It does not even have enough closet space for all my clothes. You can put in an additional closet, I suggested, or use one of the other bedrooms as a dressing room. Or we could sell this house and buy something better, something that belongs to both of us. The silence that followed was heavy. Michelle turned around from the balcony. We are not going to sell the house, Robert. Why not? If you truly trusted me. This has nothing to do with trust, she interrupted him. Her voice was firm but tired. It has to do with the fact that this is the first thing in my life that is completely mine. Can you understand that? What I understand is that your mother manipulated both of us. My mother protected me. Why is it so hard for you to see the difference? I cleared my throat. I think it is better if I leave you alone. You have a lot to talk about. I went down the stairs quickly. I could hear their voices raising in volume. I did not want to be there. They needed to resolve this between them. Before leaving, I left the second set of keys on the kitchen sink, and I also left an envelope. Inside was $500. It was not much, but it was something for them to start buying the basics: furniture, kitchen utensils, curtains. The taxi was waiting for me outside. The driver was leaning against the car, smoking a cigarette. Everything. Okay, ma'am? Everything okay? I lied. During the ride back to my apartment, I asked myself if I had done the right thing, if maybe Mrs. Constance was right, if maybe my gift had been a form of manipulation. But then I thought about Lucy, about how she had lost everything, about how she had returned to our parents' house with nothing, without options, without dignity, and I knew I had done the right thing. The following days were strange. Michelle called me little. When she did, her voice sounded dull. How are things going? Fine, Mom. Did you buy furniture yet? Some. Robert insists that everything be of a certain brand. He says he cannot live with cheap furniture. And what do you think? I think we do not have money for designer furniture. But he does not want to listen. One Friday afternoon, 2 weeks after they returned from the honeymoon, I went to visit them without warning. I brought a large pot of stew I had made the day before. I also brought tortillas freshly made from a shop near my house. I rang the bell several times before Michelle opened. I got scared when I saw her. She had her hair tied in a messy ponytail. She was wearing sweatpants and an old t-shirt. But what alarmed me most were her eyes. They were red and swollen. My life, what happened? Nothing, Mom. I am just tired. Do not lie to me. She looked back toward the interior of the house and then lowered her voice. Robert is not here. He went to his parents' house. And why did you not go? Because they do not invite me anymore. Mrs. Constance says that as long as I live in this house, I am not welcome in hers. I felt the rage rise up my throat like bile. That woman. It is okay, Mom. Really. I prefer not to go. Every time I go, she makes me feel small. We entered the house. There was some furniture already, a gray sofa in the living room, a glass coffee table. In the dining room, a light wood table with 4 chairs. Everything looked very impersonal, like a furniture showroom, without photographs, without color, without life. Where are your things? I asked. Your books, your plants, those embroidered pillows you liked so much. Robert says they do not go with the style of the house. Robert says, I repeated the words with bitterness. And what do you say? She sat on the sofa and hugged her knees. I do not know what to say, Mom. Every time I suggest something, he rejects it. He says I do not have taste, that he knows better because he grew up surrounded by beautiful things. I sat next to her and hugged her. My love, this is your house. Yours, not his. If you want to fill it with embroidered pillows and plants and photographs and colored frames, it is your decision. But we live together. I have to consider what he wants. Considering does not mean annulling yourself completely. Considering means reaching agreements. It means that sometimes things are how you want, and sometimes how he wants. Not that it is always how he wants. We heated the stew in the kitchen. The kitchen at least looked more used. There were pots and pans, spices in an organizer, a jar with wooden spoons. At least here, he lets me do what I want, said Michelle with a sad smile. He says the kitchen is my territory. How generous of him. I could not avoid the sarcasm. We ate together at the dining table. The stew was good, as always. The tortillas, hot and soft. I miss you, Mom, she said suddenly. I miss living with you. I miss our chats in the kitchen. I miss you brushing my hair before sleeping. I miss you too. My life. But this is your life now. Your marriage. You have to make it work. And if it does not work, the question remained floating in the air between us. Then you have options. This house, your education, your ability. You are not trapped. She nodded slowly, but I could see in her eyes she did not believe me entirely. Robert arrived near 7 at night. He walked through the door with that attitude of owning the world that I already knew well. "Margaret," he greeted me without smiling. "I did not know you were coming. I brought food for you. I already ate at my parents' house." Real food. The implication was clear. My stew was not real food. I stood up and started collecting the plates. "Well, I am leaving now. I will let you rest." Michelle walked me to the door. When Robert could not hear us, I whispered to her, "If you need me, no matter the time, call me." "Agreed?" "Agreed, Mom." I hugged her tight, very tight. "I love you. I love you too." In the taxi back, I cried. I cried because my daughter was suffering and I could not do anything. I cried because the marriage she had been so excited about was turning into a cage. I cried because I knew things were going to get worse before getting better. The weeks passed. Michelle kept calling me, but less and less. When we talked, it was brief. "How are you?" "Fine." "How is everything with Robert?" "Fine." "Sure?" "Yes, Mom, do not worry." But I worried. I worried all the time. One Saturday morning, a month and a half after the wedding, my phone rang. It was Mr. Ernest. "Margaret, I need to talk to you. Tell me, Mr. Ernest. Not over the phone. Can you see us today?" "Me and my daughter, Gabrielle." "Your daughter?" "Yes, the one I mentioned at the wedding. The one who is in an unhappy marriage. She wants to meet you. We agreed to meet at a coffee shop in the city. I arrived first, ordered a black coffee, and sat by the window. Mr. Ernest arrived 10 minutes later with a woman of about 40 years old. She was thin, with brown hair tied in a bun. She dressed elegantly but looked tired. "Margaret, this is my daughter Gabrielle. Gabrielle, this is Margaret Fisher, Michelle's mom." We shook hands. Hers was cold. "Nice to meet you," she said with a soft voice. We sat down. Mr. Ernest ordered coffee for him and tea for his daughter. "My dad told me what you did," Gabrielle began, "about the house for your daughter." "Yes, I wish my mother had done something like that for me." I looked at Tion. "Mr. Ernest?" He nodded, encouraging her to continue. Gabrielle took a deep breath. "I have been married for 15 years to a man who mistreats me. Not physically, he has never laid a hand on me, but emotionally, he has destroyed me." Her voice broke a little. She stopped. She took a sip of tea. "When I got married, I worked at my dad's company. I was the marketing director. I liked my job. I was good at what I did." "She was excellent," corrected Mr. Ernest. "My husband, Maurice, started saying that I did not need to work, that he earned enough, that a wife should be at home. I left my job because I thought that would make us happy." She made a long pause, but it did not make us happy. He kept finding things to complain about, that the house was not clean enough, that the food was not like his mother's, that I had become boring because I no longer had anything to talk about except the home. Gabrielle, I took her hand on the table. She was shaking. 3 years ago, I asked him for a divorce and discovered I had nothing. The house is in his name, the cars, the bank accounts, everything. I have not worked in 12 years. I have no recent experience. I have no savings of my own. And your dad's company? Maurice convinced my mother that I should not return, that it would be uncomfortable, that I better stay at home. Mr. Ernest closed his eyes. I could see the pain on his face. I should have defended her more, he said. I should have confronted Constance, but I did not do it. And now my daughter is trapped. I am not trapped, said Gabrielle with a threat of a voice. I am just without options. That is why I wanted her to talk to you, explained Mr. Ernest. So you could see what can happen, so your Michelle does not end up like this. Michelle has the house, I said. She has options. But for how long? Asked Gabrielle. How long before Robert convinces her to sell it, or to put his name on the deed? My husband also started like that, little by little, asking for small things, making me feel selfish for wanting to keep something mine. Her words froze my blood. What are you telling me? I am telling you to watch your daughter, to be pending, because men like Robert, like my brother, do not change. They only become more subtle. Mr. Ernest looked at me with tired eyes. Robert is my son, and I love him, but I am not blind. I know how he is. I know how his mother raised him, and I am afraid for Michelle. Me too, I admitted. Gabrielle squeezed my hand. Do not let your daughter end up like me, please. We stayed there, in that coffee shop. 3 people united by the fear that the women we loved were in danger. When I returned to my house that afternoon, I called Michelle. My life, I need to see you. Mom, I cannot right now. Robert and I are going to the movies. To the movies? How nice. What are you going to see? I do not know. He is going to choose. And do you not want to choose? I do not really care. Anyway, I never liked the same movies as him. That phrase, that simple phrase told me everything I needed to know. My daughter was losing herself. Michelle, yes, Mom, I love you. And I am here. I am always going to be here. I know, Mom. I love you too. We hung up. I stayed sitting in my living room, looking at the photographs on the wall. Michelle as a child, smiling without worries. Michelle at her graduation, proud and happy. Michelle on her wedding day, beautiful, but with some fear in her eyes that I had not wanted to see. And I understood something. Giving her the house had been only the first step. I had put the tools for her freedom in her hands. But now I had to teach her to use them, because a cage does not need walls when the caged person does not know she can fly. While I tell all this, I wonder where you are listening from. Write the name of your city in the comments. 3 months after the wedding, things had worsened in ways I had not anticipated. Michelle had stopped fixing herself up like before. She no longer wore those colorful dresses she liked so much. Now she only dressed in black, gray, or beige, neutral colors, colors that did not draw attention. Robert says bright colors are for young women, she explained to me one day when I asked her. He says now that I'm a married woman, I should look more serious, more mature. You are 26 years old, Michelle. You are young. I know, Mom, but it is easier this way. If I dress how he likes, we do not have arguments. She had also stopped seeing her friends. Laura, her best friend since high school, had called me a week before. Mrs. Fisher, is Michelle okay? She no longer answers my messages. The last time I invited her for coffee, she told me she could not because Robert did not want her to go out alone. That Robert did not want her to go out alone? Yes. She said he thought it was inappropriate for a married woman to go around with single friends, that it gave a bad image. Every new piece of information was like a dagger in the heart. One Thursday afternoon, I decided to go visit her without warning again. I needed to see with my own eyes how my daughter really was. I rang the bell several times. No one opened. I took out my emergency set of keys and entered. The house was in shadows, all the curtains closed. It smelled of confinement. Michelle? I heard a noise on the second floor. I went up quickly. I found her in the master bedroom, sitting on the floor of the balcony, hugging her knees. She had a lost look. My life, what are you doing here in the dark? She looked at me as if she did not recognize me for a moment. Then her eyes focused. Mom, I did not know you were coming. You did not open when I knocked. I did not hear. I sat next to her on the floor. It was cold. The rainy season was starting and the sky was gray. What is wrong, my love? And do not tell me nothing, because it is not nothing. She stayed quiet for a long time. Then, with a voice so small I could barely hear it, she said, "I am pregnant." The world stopped. For a moment. Pregnant? 2 months? And does Robert know? Yes. And what did he say? She started to cry, deep sobs that shook her whole body. He said that now I definitely will not be able to work, that I will have to dedicate myself completely to the house and the baby. He said it was time for me to sell this house because with a baby, we are going to need something bigger, something uptown near his parents. I felt my blood boiling. Sell the house? He says that with what we get from this house and what he has saved, we can buy a nice apartment. In both our names, of course, because now we are going to be a real family. Michelle, look at me. She looked up. Her eyes were red, swollen. Do not sell the house. But Mom? No, sell the house. I said every word with clarity. This house is your insurance. It is your freedom. It is your exit. Do not sell it. But we are going to have a baby. Robert is right. We need something bigger. This house has 3 bedrooms, 1 for you, 1 for the baby, and a guest room. It is more than enough. Robert says the neighborhood is not good, that Willow Creek is too far from everything. Robert says. Always Robert says. And what do you say, Michelle? What do you want? She stayed quiet, and in that silence, I understood something terrible. My daughter no longer knew what she wanted. She no longer knew who she was. Listen to me well. I took her hands. I know you are scared. I know a baby changes everything, but do not let fear make you give up the only thing that is yours. Robert has his properties, he has his money, he has everything, but this house is yours, only yours. I do not want to fight with him, Mom. I am so tired of fighting. I know my life. I know. I hugged her while she cried. Her body was thinner. I could feel her ribs. Have you eaten today? I am not hungry. Are you going to the doctor? Robert wants me to go with his mom's gynecologist. A doctor uptown. And do you want to go with that doctor? I do not know him. Then let's look for another one. One that you choose. One with whom you feel comfortable. Robert is going to get angry. Robert is not the one who is pregnant. You are. You decide. For the first time in that conversation, I saw a flash of something in her eyes. I do not know if it was hope or just a spark of the Michelle I knew. That night, I stayed to sleep at the house. Michelle did not protest. I think she needed company. I made chicken soup with vegetables. Nothing very heavy. She ate little, but she ate something. We were watching television when Robert arrived near 10 at night. Margaret, he greeted me with that cold tone that was already habitual. What are you doing here? I came to see my daughter. I see. Well, you already saw her. Now you can go. Michelle was sitting on the sofa, very still. I could see how she tensed up. Actually, I am going to stay tonight, I said. Michelle does not feel well, and I want to be here. It is not necessary. I can take care of my wife. I am. Sure you can, but I am staying anyway. We looked at each other fixedly. It was a battle of wills. Robert, said Michelle with a trembling voice, let her stay, please. He clenched his jaw. Then he went up the stairs without saying a word. Thank you, Mom, whispered Michelle. You have nothing to thank me for. I slept in the guest room, or rather I did not sleep. I stayed awake listening. I heard when Robert entered the master bedroom. I heard their voices. He spoke in a low but hard tone. She responded with short answers. I could not hear the exact words, but I did not need to hear them. I knew that tone. It was the tone of a man who is used to getting his way. At 3 a.m, I heard someone coming down the stairs. I peeked out. It was Michelle. She went to the kitchen. She opened the refrigerator. She stood in front of the light, looking at the contents without taking anything out. I got up and went down. You cannot sleep? She jumped. She had not heard me. Mom, you scared me. Sorry, my love. Do you want me to make you something? Some tea? Warm milk? I do not know what I want. She sat on one of the dining chairs. I heated up some milk with cinnamon. Robert is very angry, she said after a while. He says you are turning me against him, that before the wedding I was different. And what do you think? I think everything was easier before when we were just dating, when he was sweet and attentive. People do not change overnight, Michelle. They just stop pretending. Do you think he was pretending? I poured the milk into 2 cups. I sat across from her. I think when a man is courting, he shows his best version, and when he feels he already has you, he shows his real version. So the Robert I knew was not real. Maybe he was real, but he was not complete. Now you are seeing the full picture. She took a sip of milk. A tear rolled down her cheek. I do not know if I can do this, Mom. Being a wife, being a mother, living like this. You do not have to live like this. There are other ways. Divorce? We just got married. I am pregnant. I cannot get a divorce. I am not saying you should get a divorce. I am saying you should set boundaries. Let him know he cannot treat you as if you were his property. It is easier said than done. I know my life. Believe me, I know. We finished the milk in silence. Then I walked her back to her bedroom. Mom? Yes. Were you happy with my dad? The question took me by surprise. Very. Your dad was a good man. But did you have problems? All marriages have problems, my love. The difference is how they resolve them. Your dad and I talked. We listened to each other. We respected each other. Neither of us tried to control the other. Robert says that controlling is another form of loving, that when someone loves you, they want to know where you are, what you are doing, who you are talking to. That is not love, Michelle, that is possession, and there is a huge difference. She nodded slowly. Good night, Mom. Good night, my life. The next morning, I woke up early. I went down and made coffee. I also made scrambled eggs with toast. Robert came down first. He was wearing a perfectly ironed gray suit. He smelled of expensive cologne. Good morning, I said. Good morning, he replied without looking at me. He poured himself coffee and sat at the table with his phone. Robert, we need to talk. We have nothing to talk about. I think we do. It is about Michelle. My wife is not your problem. She is my daughter. She is always going to be my problem. He looked up from the phone. His eyes were cold. Look, Margaret, I know you think you know me, that you know exactly what kind of man I am. But you know nothing. I know enough. Oh, yeah? Do you know I love your daughter? That I would do anything for her? What I see is a man who is trying to isolate his wife, to cut her off from her friends, from her family, from everything that makes her feel like herself. What you see is what you want to see. Then prove me wrong. I do not have to prove anything to you. At that moment, Michelle came down. She was wearing an old nightgown, her hair messy. She looked vulnerable. Good morning, she said with a small voice. Robert stood up immediately. His attitude changed completely. Suddenly, he was all smiles. My love, how did you wake up? Did you sleep well? Yes. Do you want me to make you something? Fruit? Yogurt? I already made breakfast, I said. Robert shot me a quick look. Then he smiled at Michelle again. I have to go. Important meeting, but I will call you later, okay? He kissed her on the forehead. Then he left without saying goodbye to me. Michelle and I ate breakfast in silence. She ate a little more than the night before. That was good. Mom, I need to tell you something. Tell me. Yesterday, before you arrived, Robert gave me a surprise. What kind of surprise? He spoke with a real estate agent. He already has 2 apartments on a list for us to see. Uptown, near Mrs. Constance's house. I felt my stomach tighten. And what did you say? I told him I had to think about it first. He got angry. He said any woman would be happy to move uptown, that only I would find reasons to complain. Michelle, listen to me. You do not have to sell this house. You do not have to do anything you do not want to do. But he already spoke to the agent. He already made plans. Plans without consulting you. Plans without your consent. That tells you everything you need to know. She played with the food on her plate. Sometimes I think Mother Constance is right, that I am difficult, that any other woman would be more grateful. Mrs. Constance is a bitter woman who raised a son who thinks women are objects. Do not listen to her. She is my husband's mom, my baby's grandmother. And that does not make her wise, nor good, nor worthy of your respect if she does not respect you. After breakfast, I stayed a while longer. I helped Michelle clean. I noticed how she avoided certain topics, how she changed the conversation when I asked about her plans. Around noon, her phone rang. It was Robert. I could hear his voice from where I was, Loud, insistent. Yes, she's leaving soon. No, nothing happened. Yes, I promise you. It is fine. I love you too. She hung up and looked at me with guilty eyes. Robert wants you to come less often. He says we need space to be a real couple. And what do you want? I want everyone to be happy. That is not an answer. It is the only one I have, Mom. I said goodbye with a heavy heart. I knew things were going to get worse. I could feel it. During the following weeks, Michelle stopped answering my calls as frequently. When she did, her answers were short, evasive. I am fine, Mom. Everything is fine. Do not worry. But I worried. I worried every minute of every day. One day, I received a call from Laura, Michelle's friend. Mrs. Fisher, I saw Michelle at the supermarket. And how was she? Bad. She looked very thin. And when I tried to talk to her, Robert appeared out of nowhere. He practically dragged her away as if I were a danger. Thank you for telling me, Laura. Ma'am, something is not right. You have to do something. I know, I am trying, but the truth was, I did not know what to do. I could not force my daughter to leave her husband. I could not force her to set boundaries. I could not live her life for her. I could only be there, waiting, ready for when she needed me and praying it would not be too late. That night, before sleeping, I took out the house deeds. I read them again, every word, every clause. The house was in Michelle's name, only Michelle's. Robert had no legal right over it. But legal rights do not matter when someone has convinced you that you have no right to have rights. And that was exactly what Robert was doing, convincing my daughter that she did not deserve to have something of her own, that being a good wife meant giving up everything, that true love was total sacrifice. I put the papers away and turned off the light. Outside, it started to rain, one of those heavy rains that announce a storm. And I, lying in my bed, thought about my daughter, about my granddaughter or grandson on the way, about the future that looked darker and darker. And I asked myself if everything I had done had been worth anything, or if I had only delayed the inevitable. 2 more months passed. 2 months in which I barely saw my daughter. 2 months in which every phone call was shorter than the last. 2 months in which I felt I was losing her. Michelle was already 4 months pregnant. Her belly was barely starting to show. I only knew because one afternoon I managed to convince her to meet me to go shopping. You need maternity clothes, I had told her over the phone. Robert says it is still too early. Robert is not the one who is pregnant. Come, let's go buy some nice things. She accepted with that tired voice that was already so familiar to me. We met at a shopping mall in the city. When I saw her arrive, I had to control the urge to cry. She was very thin. Her face looked gaunt. She had deep circles under her eyes. Her hair, which had always been her pride, was dull and lifeless. My love, I hugged her tight. Hi, Mom. We entered a maternity store. There were pretty dresses, colorful, comfortable. I started pulling out options. Look at this blue one, you would love it. And this yellow one. Imagine yourself with your hair down. Mom, no. No what? I cannot buy colors. Robert prefers I wear black or gray. He says it is more elegant. Michelle, you are going to be a mother. You are not going to a funeral. I know, but it is easier this way, without arguments. The saleswoman looked at us with curiosity. I pretended not to notice. We ended up buying 3 dresses, all black, all lifeless, like my daughter had become. We went to have something to drink at a coffee shop in the mall. She ordered chamomile tea. I ordered coffee. How have you felt? Nausea? Dizziness? At first, yes. Now better. Have you gone to the doctor? Yes. To the gynecologist Mrs. Constance recommended. And how is he? Do you like him? Do you feel comfortable with him? He's professional. That word. Professional. Not kind. Not understanding. Professional. Does Robert go with you to the appointments? Sometimes. When he can. He says his job is very demanding, but the job of being a husband is also demanding, especially when your wife is pregnant. She said nothing. She just stirred the tea with the little spoon, again and again, a nervous gesture she had never had before. Mom, there is something I need to tell you. My heart sped up. Tell me. Robert found a buyer for the house. The world stopped. What? It is a young couple. They have 2 kids. They are willing to pay a good price. Robert says with that money and what he has, we can buy the apartment uptown he likes so much. Michelle, no. I already signed the preliminary papers. I felt like I was running out of air. You already signed? Robert told me it was just to show we were interested, that we could still back out. And do you want to back out? She started to cry. There, in the middle of the coffee shop, with people around. I do not know what I want, Mom. Robert says it is best for the baby, that uptown has better schools, better parks, better everything, that I am selfish for holding on to a house just because you gave it to me. That house is yours. It is your security. It is your freedom. Robert says freedom in marriage is a myth, that when two people get married, they become one, and that what is mine is his and what is his is mine. Then why is the new apartment going to be in both names, but he did not put his house in both names when you got married? She stayed silent. I could see she had never asked herself that question. She had not thought about that. Well, think about it now. Think hard. Why does he want you to sell what is yours to buy something that is going to belong to both? Why do you not buy the new apartment and keep the house as an investment? He says we do not need two properties. He has more than two properties, Michelle. He has the apartment where he lived when you were dating. He has land by the lake his dad left him. He has shares in the family business. But the only thing he wants to get rid of is yours. I saw how the ideas started connecting in her mind, how she started to see what I had seen from the beginning. My God, she whispered, you are right, my love. I need you to promise me something. Do not sign anything else. Nothing, until you speak with a lawyer. A lawyer? Robert is going to think I do not trust him. And maybe you should not trust. At least not blindly. She wiped her tears with a napkin. What am I going to do, Mom? I already signed those preliminary papers. Tomorrow we go to Mr. Mendoza, the lawyer who helped me with the house deed. He's going to tell us what can be done. Robert cannot find out. He's not going to find out, unless you tell him. We stayed a while longer in the coffee shop. Michelle started talking, and once she started, she could not stop. She told me things that froze my blood. How Robert checked her phone every night while she slept. How he had asked for the passwords to all her social media. How he got angry if she took more than 10 minutes to answer his messages. How he had started criticizing her body, her weight, the way she dressed, the way she spoke. How Mrs. Constance came to the house without warning and checked how clean it was. How she left little notes where she had found dust or mess. How Robert had suggested she stop working, even though she had barely been at her job as a graphic designer in a small agency for a year. He says with the baby I will not be able to concentrate, that it is better if I quit now and dedicate myself to preparing everything for when he is born. And do you want to quit? I like my job. They do not pay much, but I like it. It makes me feel useful. Then do not quit. But Robert says, Robert says, Robert says, Robert says. I hit the table softly but firmly. And what do you say, Michelle? When are you going to start saying what you want? She looked at me with scared eyes. Like a little girl, I do not know how. Then we are going to learn together. The next day, we went to Mr. Mendoza. His office was in an old building downtown. We went up 3 floors by some narrow stairs. The lawyer was a man of about 60 years, with thick glasses and a completely white beard. He received us with warmth. Mrs. Fisher, Michelle, come in, come in. I explained the situation. He listened with attention, making some notes in a notebook. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and sighed. I see. Well, first things first. Did you bring the papers you signed? Michelle took some documents out of her bag. The lawyer read them carefully. After a few minutes, he looked up. This is a letter of intent. It is not legally binding. You can back out without any problem. Michelle let out a sigh of relief. Seriously? Seriously. But there is something more important we must discuss. This house is deeded only in your name, correct? Yes. And there is a special trust that prevents your husband from having rights over it. Correct? Well, I need you to know something. To sell that house, you need to sign in front of a notary, and the notary has the obligation to ensure you understand what you are doing, that you are not being pressured. And if I already signed in front of the notary, did you do it? No, not yet. Robert said we had an appointment next week. The lawyer leaned forward. Michelle, look at me. If you do not want to sell that house, no one can force you. Your husband has no legal right over it. None. Do you understand? But we are married. And even so, the trust your mother established is very clear. That property is yours, and yours alone. Robert says I'm selfish. Robert is trying to manipulate you so you give up your security. Michelle started crying again. I do not know what to do. If I do not sell the house, he is going to get so angry. I do not know what is going to happen. The lawyer looked at me. Then he looked at Michelle. Honey, has your husband threatened you? Has he laid a hand on you? No, never. He is not violent. But are you afraid of his reaction? She did not answer immediately. That was already an answer. I am afraid everything will get worse, she said finally, that he gets angry, that he punishes me with silence, that he leaves to his mom's and leaves me alone. And would that be so bad? Asked the lawyer gently. Being alone? I am pregnant. I cannot be alone. You would not be alone, I said. You have me. You have the house. You have options. The lawyer took a card out of his desk. Look, I am going to give you the number of a colleague of mine. She's a lawyer specialized in family law. If at any moment you feel you need advice about your marriage, about custody, about whatever, call her. Agreed? Michelle took the card with trembling hands. Thank you. We left the office with more questions than answers, but at least Michelle now knew she had rights, that she was not completely helpless. I accompanied her to take the bus back to Willow Creek. Before she got on, I hugged her. I love you, my life, and I am going to be here. Always. I know, Mom. I love you too. I watched as the bus drove away. Michelle waved at me from the window, and I had a bad feeling, a sensation in my stomach I could not ignore. That night at 11:30, my phone rang. It was Michelle crying so hard she could barely speak. Mom, I need you to come. Please. What happened? Are you okay? Is it the baby? Robert knows. He knows we went to the lawyer. I do not know how he found out, but he knows. Where are you? At the house. He went out. He said horrible things, Mom. He said I was ungrateful, that he had been so good to me and I paid him like this, that you had brainwashed me. I am on my way. Do not move. Do you hear me? Do not move. Hurry, Mom, please. I hung up and ran out. I did not even change out of my pajamas. I put a sweater on top and went down the stairs of my building, almost flying. There were no taxis in the street. I had to walk 4 blocks to a main avenue. Finally, I found one. Willow Creek, Magnolia Lane. And hurry, please. The ride was eternal. Every red light was torture. Every slow car was an unbearable obstacle. When we finally arrived, I gave the driver $50 and told him to keep the change. I ran toward the house. The door was ajar. Michelle? I found her sitting on the stairs, hugging her knees. She was shaking. I sat next to her and hugged her. I am here. It is over. It is not over, Mom. This is just beginning. She was right. This was just beginning. And the worst was yet to come. That night I stayed with Michelle. I was not going to leave her alone. Robert did not return. His phone rang and rang, but she did not answer. Let it ring, I told her. Let him calm down first. He's not going to calm down, Mom. He is furious. I had never seen him like this. What exactly happened? How did he find out? She wiped her tears with the back of her hand. I do not know. I arrived at the house around 6. He was already here. That was weird because he normally arrives after 8. He was sitting in the living room with the light off, just sitting there in the dark. A chill ran down my back. And what did he say? At first, nothing. He just looked at me. Then he asked where I had been. I told him I had gone shopping with you. He asked me what I had bought. I showed him the dresses. He threw them on the floor. Michelle trembled while telling it. Then he said, Did you go shopping or did you go with a lawyer? I froze, Mom. How did he know? I did not tell anyone. Only you. Did someone see you? Any acquaintance? I do not know. Maybe. Mr. Mendoza's office is downtown. There are many restaurants and coffee shops there. Someone could have seen us and told Robert. Or maybe he is following you. She looked at me with wide eyes. Do you think he would follow me? It would not be the first time a jealous man follows his wife. Robert is not jealous. He's protective. My love, There's a very thin line between protection and control, and Robert crossed it a long time ago. I made chamomile tea for both of us. We sat on the living room sofa. Outside, it had started to rain again. The sound of water against the windows was the only thing breaking the silence. What else did he tell you? He said I was ungrateful, that any woman would be happy to have a husband like him, that he gave me everything and I only paid him with distrust. I told him I had only gone to consult about the papers I signed, that I wanted to make sure everything was fine. And what did he say? He screamed. I had never heard him scream like that. He said he did not need lawyers getting into our marriage, that family problems are solved in the family, that you had turned me against him from the beginning. I did not turn you against him. I only gave you tools to protect yourself. I know, Mom. Now I know. Michelle's phone vibrated. It was a message from Robert. What does it say? She read out loud. I am at my parents' house. I need to think. We will talk tomorrow. But I want you to know that this has to end. Either you are with me completely or you are not with me at all. You decide. It is an ultimatum. Yes. And what are you going to do? Michelle put her hands on her belly. Her small bump barely showed under the loose t-shirt. I do not know. I have a baby on the way. I cannot raise a child alone. You would not be alone. You would have me. And you would have your house and your job. Robert wants me to quit my job. Of course he wants that. Because as long as you have a job, you have independence. You have your own money. You have a life outside of him. Mom, you sound like you hate Robert. I do not hate him. I do not even really know him. But I hate what he is doing to you. I hate seeing how you are disappearing little by little. She started crying again. That night, at 3 a.m, she finally fell asleep. I stayed awake, sitting in a chair next to the sofa where she slept. I did not want to leave her alone for a second. I thought about everything that had happened, about the wedding, about the maid's uniform, about Robert's face when he saw the house deed, about how everything had been getting gradually worse. And I asked myself what would have happened if I had not given her the house, if everything would have been different, if maybe Robert would have been a better husband, if he had not felt threatened. But then I thought about Gabrielle, Robert's sister, about how she had lost everything, about how her mother had not protected her, and I knew I had done the right thing. The next morning, Michelle woke up with swollen eyes. I made coffee and found bread in the cupboard. We ate breakfast in silence. I have to go to work, she said suddenly. Are you sure? Can you call and say you are sick? No, I need to go. I need to do something normal, something that reminds me who I am. I understood her. Sometimes the most important thing in the middle of chaos is maintaining a routine, something that anchors you to reality. Do you want me to go with you? No, Mom, I am fine. Really, I will take you at least. It is fine. I took her in a taxi to the agency where she worked. It was a small building in the business district. Before getting out, she hugged me tight. Thank you for staying last night. I am always going to stay when you need me. I know. I watched her enter the building. She looked so fragile, so small. I returned to the house in Willow Creek. I needed to make sure everything was in order in case Robert returned. I picked up the dresses he had thrown on the floor. I folded them carefully and put them in the master bedroom closet. Then I went down and washed the teacups from the night before. I organized the kitchen. I took out the trash. I was finishing when I heard someone opening the main door. Robert entered like a tornado. He was wearing the same clothes from the day before. He smelled of cigarettes and alcohol. His eyes were red. Where is Michelle? At work. Of course. Working. As if nothing had happened. Something happened, Robert, and you know it. He looked at me with pure hate. You. All this is your fault. No. This is your fault for treating my daughter as if she were your property. She is my wife. Being a wife does not mean being a slave. Slave? He laughed with bitterness. I gave her everything, a respectable last name, a good family, a future for her and her child, and you convinced her that I am the enemy. I did not have to convince her of anything. Your actions spoke for themselves. He walked closer to me. Too close. I could smell his breath. Listen to me well, Margaret. Michelle is my wife. That baby is my child, and this farce of the house is going to end. She's going to sell, and we are going to buy something together, as it should be. That is not for you to decide. Ah, no? I am her husband. I have every right, you have no right. The house is in her name, only her name. And if she does not want to sell it, it is not sold. She already signed the papers. She signed a letter of intent. It is not binding. Ask your lawyer if you do not believe me. I saw how his face changed. It turned red, then purple. How do you know that? Because we went to a lawyer, a real one, who explained Michelle's rights to us. He punched the wall with his fist so hard he left a mark. This is incredible. Incredible. My own wife going to lawyers behind my back. It was not behind your back. It was to protect herself. Protect herself? Protect herself from what? From me? I am her husband. I love her. Love does not control. Love does not isolate. Love does not manipulate. You know nothing about love. You were left a widow and bitter, and now you want your daughter to end up the same. Those words hurt me, but I was not going to let him notice. My husband respected me every day of our life together. He never made me feel less. He never tried to control me. That is love, Robert. What you feel for Michelle is not love. It is a need for possession. Get out of my house. This is not your house. It is Michelle's. Get out. I did not move. I am going to leave. But listen to me well. If you lay a hand on her, if you threaten her or hurt her in any way, I am going to personally ensure you pay for it. Are you threatening me? I am promising you. I left the house with my head high, but when I closed the door behind me, my legs were shaking. I had crossed a line. I had confronted Robert directly, and I knew that would have consequences. I called Michelle from a payphone on the corner. My life, Robert is at the house. He arrived while I was there. What happened? We had a conversation, a strong conversation. I think it is better if you do not go to the house tonight. Stay with me. Mom, I have to go. It is my house. I cannot run away. It is not running away. It is being smart. Let him calm down. I am tired of waiting for him to calm down. It is always the same. He gets angry, I wait. He calms down halfway, and then we go back to the same thing. Then what are you going to do? I am going to go home, and we are going to talk, like adults, like a couple. Michelle, Mom, I love you, but I need to do this. I need to face him. At least take me with you. I can wait for you outside. No, this is between Robert and me. She hung up. I stayed standing on that corner with the phone in my hand, feeling I had just made a terrible mistake. I should not have let her go alone. The hours passed. 6 in the afternoon, 7, 8. Michelle did not call. At 9 I called. She did not answer. At 9:30 I called again. Nothing. At 10 I took a taxi back to Willow Creek. When I arrived at the house, all the lights were off. I rang the doorbell. No one opened. I used my keys. Michelle. Robert. The house was in silence. A heavy, unnatural silence. I ran up the stairs. The master bedroom door was locked. Michelle, open the door. I heard a sob on the other side. Mom, open the door, my love. I cannot. Robert took the keys. He locked me in. I felt my blood boil. Where is he? I do not know. He left an hour ago. He said he needed air, but he locked me in here, locked from the outside. I'm going to break the door. No, Mom, it is very thick. You will not be able to. She was right. It was a solid wood door. I'm going to call the fire department. No, please, I already caused enough scandal. The neighbors are going to... I do not give a damn about the neighbors. We get you out of there and then we see. I called 911. I explained the situation. They told me they would send a unit. 20 minutes later, 2 firefighters arrived, young men in blue uniforms. What is the situation? My daughter is locked in that bedroom. Her husband locked her in. They looked at each other. They knew these types of situations. Is she okay? Is she not hurt? Michelle, my love, are you okay? Yes, Mom. I am okay. Just scared. Let's get her out, ma'am, said one of the firefighters. It took 10 minutes to force the door. When it finally opened, I ran inside. Michelle was sitting on the floor next to the bed, hugging her knees, just like that first time I found her like that. I hugged her so tight I probably hurt her. It is over. You are out. The firefighters stayed a moment. Miss, do you want us to call the police? What your husband did is illegal. It is false imprisonment. Michelle shook her head. No, I just want to get out of here. Are you sure? Yes, please. I just want to leave. The firefighters left. I helped Michelle pack a suitcase, clothes, important documents, her toiletries. The house papers? I asked her. In the study, in the first drawer of the desk, I ran down. I found the documents, the deed, the trust. Everything was there. I put them in my bag. When we left the house, it was almost 11 at night. The street was dark and silent. The bougainvillea moved with the wind. Michelle turned to look at the house one last time. I thought I was going to be happy here. You still can be, just not with him. I am pregnant, Mom. 4 months. What am I going to do? You are going to be a mother. You are going to raise your child with dignity and love. And you are going to teach him that never, never does anyone have the right to lock you up. That night, Michelle slept in my bed, just like when she was a child and had nightmares. And I stayed awake, watching, protecting, because I knew this was not over. Robert was not going to accept her leaving just like that. The storm was just beginning, and the worst was still to come. The next 3 days were hell. Robert called constantly. He left messages, some full of apologies, others full of threats. My love, forgive me. I do not know what happened to me. I was so angry, so confused. Please, come back. I promise it is going to be different. And then, 2 hours later, if you do not come back, I am going to make you regret it. That baby is mine too. You cannot keep him away from me. My family has lawyers, the best ones. We are going to take custody away from you. Michelle listened to the messages and cried. I deleted each one after she heard it. He cannot take custody away from you. I told her, you have nothing to worry about, but his family has money, Mom. They have power. What if they can? They cannot. You have done nothing wrong. He was the one who locked you up. He was the one who mistreated you. On the 4th day, Mrs. Constance appeared at my door. She rang the bell at 10 in the morning. When I opened, she was there with her designer coat and dark glasses. I need to speak with Michelle. She does not want to speak with anyone from your family. I am her mother-in-law. I have a right. You have no right. Leave. Margaret, do not be ridiculous. This can be fixed. They are a marriage. They have a baby on the way. They just need to talk. Your son locked my daughter up with a lock as if she were a prisoner. He was upset. Men do things when they are upset. That is not an excuse, and it never will be. You are the one who has caused all this, with your damn house, with your need to control Michelle. I did not lock her up. Your son did. Mrs. Constance pressed her lips together. Robert is devastated. He does not eat. He does not sleep. He just cries and asks for her. Then let him come and ask for forgiveness on his knees. And even then, I do not know if she should forgive him. They are husband and wife. Before God, God does not approve of abuse. She stayed quiet a moment. Then she took an envelope out of her bag. This is an offer from my husband. An offer. If Michelle returns with Robert, my husband will give her an apartment in her name, hers alone, as compensation. I could not believe what I was hearing. Are you telling me you want to buy my daughter? It is not buying her. It is securing her future. Her future is secured. She has a house, the one I gave her, and she has her dignity, which your son almost took away. That house is not enough. Mr. Ernest is offering something much better. Uptown, 3 bedrooms, 2 parking spots. I do not care if he is offering a palace. My daughter is not returning to a man who locked her up. Mrs. Constance put the envelope away. This is a mistake. We are all going to regret this. The only thing I regret is not having seen sooner what kind of family you are. She left without saying more. When I closed the door, I was shaking with rage. Michelle had heard everything from the living room. An apartment uptown, it does not matter where it is not worth your freedom. But Mom, it is a good offer. And with the baby, you need to be safe, calm. Not with a man who locks you up when you do not do what he wants. She sat on the sofa. She looked so tired. I do not know what to do. Yes, you do. Deep down, you know. That afternoon, we went to the lawyer Mr. Mendoza had recommended. Her name was Brenda Torres. She was about 40 years old and had a direct look that inspired confidence. We told her everything, from the wedding to the lock-in. She took notes without interrupting. When we finished, she looked up. "You have a very clear case of psychological violence and false imprisonment. We can proceed with a divorce lawsuit and request a restraining order." "Restraining order?" asked Michelle. "Yes, so Robert cannot come near you. It is for your safety and the baby's. But he is the father of my child, and he will be able to see his child, but with supervision, at least until he proves he is not a danger." Michelle started to cry. This got out of control. We just wanted to be happy. "I know," said Brenda softly, "but happiness cannot be built on fear, and you are afraid of your husband. That is not right." We left the office with papers to sign, a divorce lawsuit, a request for alimony, a temporary restraining order. Everything was becoming real, very real. That night, Michelle finally made her decision. "I am going to get a divorce." "Are you sure?" "No, but it is the right thing. For me, for my baby." I hugged her as tight as I could. "I am proud of you. I am so scared, Mom. I know, but I am here, and I am not going to leave you alone, ever." The next day, we signed the papers. The lawyer presented everything to the judge. Robert received the notification 3 days later, and then the real hell began. Calls, messages, appearances at my building, calls to Michelle's work, but she stayed firm. "I am not coming back," she told him on the phone one night. "I cannot. You hurt me, Robert, and I need to protect myself. It is protecting yourself from me. I am your husband. I love you. Love does not lock up. Love does not control. My mom was right. Your mom destroyed you." We were happy until she put her ideas in your head. We were not happy. I was unhappy, only I was so scared I could not admit it. She hung up, and for the first time in months, I saw something in her eyes I had not seen in a long time. Peace. Not happiness yet, but peace. And that was enough for now. 6 months later, Michelle gave birth to a beautiful girl. She was named Elena, like my mother. The birth was natural, without complications. I was there, holding her hand, wiping her forehead with a damp cloth. "You did it, my life. You did it." When they put the baby in her arms, Michelle cried, but this time they were tears of joy. "Hello, my love. Hello, Elena. Your mom is going to take care of you always. I promise you." Robert was not at the birth. The restraining order was still in effect. He could only see the baby with supervision once a week at a specialized center. At first, he went religiously. He held Elena. He talked to her. He sang to her. But with time, the visits became more spaced out. 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month. "Where is Dad?" asked the supervisor at the center when Michelle arrived. "I do not know. He did not answer my messages. Robert had found someone else, a 23-year-old girl who worked at his father's company. Pretty, young, without children, without a house of her own, completely dependent on him." We knew it from Gabrielle, Robert's sister, who had started visiting Michelle regularly. My brother introduced his new girlfriend at the house. My mother is happy. She says he finally found someone who makes him happy. "And Elena?" asked Michelle. "He does not mention her. It is as if she did not exist." I saw how my daughter's face went from surprise to pain and then to something different. Acceptance. At least now, Elena is not going to grow up confused. She's going to grow up knowing her mom loves her, and that is enough. The divorce was finalized 8 months after Elena's birth. Robert signed everything without fighting. He was too busy with his new life. He gave up shared custody. He only asked for sporadic visits. "I cannot be a father right now," he told his lawyer. "I have other priorities." The alimony the judge ordered him to pay was generous, but Robert almost never paid it on time. There was always an excuse. A problem with the bank, a business trip, something he forgot. Michelle had to sue him 3 times for lack of payment. "It is exhausting, Mom. Every month is a struggle." "I know, my life. But do not give up. That alimony is Elena's right." Meanwhile, Michelle's life was starting to bloom in unexpected ways. She had returned to work when Elena turned 6 months old. Her boss, impressed by her dedication, offered her a promotion. I want you to be the creative director. You have talent and vision." She had also met other single moms at the park. They formed a support group. They helped each other with childcare. They shared recipes. They listened to each other when they needed to vent. "For the first time in years, I feel like myself," she told me one afternoon while we drank coffee in her living room. The house in Willow Creek now had life. There were photographs on the walls, plants in the windows, Elena's toys everywhere. "You look happy." "I am. Sometimes it is hard. Sometimes I get exhausted. But I am free, Mom. And that is priceless." 1 year after the divorce, Gabrielle called me. "Margaret, I need to tell you something about Robert. What happened? He's going to get married again, to the young girl. So fast? She is pregnant. My mother is organizing a big wedding. She says this time everything is going to be different, that this girl does know what it means to be a good wife." I felt pity. Not for Robert, for that girl who did not know what she was getting into. "And how is Robert?" Gabrielle sighed. "Unhappy, you can tell. He smiles for the photos, but he looks empty. My dad says Robert asks about Michelle, about Elena. But he is too proud to admit he made a mistake. 2 years after the divorce, we received news from the Sterling family again. Robert and his second wife had separated. She had left him, taking their 1-year-old son. She said he was controlling, that he isolated her from her family, that he checked her phone. Everything you said he did," Gabrielle told me over the phone. "It is sad," I said sincerely. "Sad that he does not learn. My dad tried to talk to him. He told him he needed therapy." Robert screamed that everyone was against him, that modern women do not know how to be wives. Mr. Ernest had tried to approach Michelle several times. He wanted to meet his granddaughter, but he respected that she needed time. Finally, when Elena turned 3, Michelle accepted a visit. Mr. Ernest arrived with tears in his eyes. "She looks just like you when you were a baby," he told Michelle. "Beautiful." He had brought her a gift, a small necklace with a silver cross. It was my mother's, for Elena, to protect her. "Thank you, Mr. Ernest. I am very sorry for what my son did to you. I tried to raise him better. I really tried. You are not to blame. Robert is an adult. He made his decisions." The old man nodded sadly. "You know, Robert lost his job at the family business. Why? Because my dad discovered he was diverting funds to maintain his lifestyle to impress his girlfriends. He fired him, and Mrs. Constance continues defending him. She says everyone is unfair to him, that the world is against him. But I am tired, very tired." 3 months later, Mr. Ernest passed away. A heart attack while he slept. Michelle went to the funeral. She took Elena, who already understood that that older man was her grandfather. Robert was there. He looked gaunt, older than his 32 years indicated. When he saw Michelle, he approached. "Thank you for coming. I am sorry for your loss. He loved you very much. He always defended you." "I know." Robert looked at Elena. The girl had Michelle's dark hair and his green eyes. "She is beautiful." "Yes. I ruined everything, right?" Michelle did not answer immediately. Then, with a soft but firm voice, she said, "Yes, you ruined it, but I built something better from the ruins." He nodded. A tear rolled down his cheek. "I am sorry. For everything. I know." It was the last time they spoke. Years later, I heard Robert was still alone. He lived in a small apartment. He worked at a company that was not his family's. His mother visited him often, still blaming the world for his unhappiness. And I thought about how life always collects its debts. Robert had wanted to control, he had wanted to possess, and in the end, he was left with nothing. While Michelle, who had had the courage to leave, to rebuild herself, to choose her freedom, had everything. He once called me crazy when I told her not to sell the house. Years later, I saw him alone at his father's funeral, with that empty look of someone who knows he lost the best thing he had. Life always collects its debts. Always. Today, Elena is 7 years old. She's a bright girl full of life and questions. "Grandma, why doesn't my dad come to see me?" It is the question that hurts me most to hear. But Michelle has learned to answer it with honesty. "Because your dad is lost, my love. Sometimes adults get lost and do not know how to find their way back. And will he find it someday? I do not know, my heaven, but what I do know is that you have a lot of love from your mom, from your grandma, from all the people who love you. And it is true. Elena is surrounded by love. The house in Willow Creek continues to be the refuge for both. Michelle never sold it. She never considered it after that night. The bougainvillea has grown so much it covers almost the entire back wall. The fountain continues singing with the water falling on the tiles. And in the afternoons, Michelle and Elena sit on the master bedroom balcony to watch the sunset. This place saved us, Michelle told me a few months ago. Not just physically, emotionally. Having a place of my own. Something no one could take away from me. It gave me the strength to move forward. That is what I gave it to you for, my life. I know. And every day I thank you. Michelle is now the creative director of a big agency. She earns well. She has savings. She has started to invest. I want Elena to have what I had, she tells me. Security, options, the certainty that she will never depend completely on anyone. She has also met someone. His name is Jason. He's an elementary school teacher. Divorced too, with a daughter Elena's age. They are in no rush. They have barely been dating 6 months. But what I see in them is different from what I saw with Robert. I see respect. I see that he listens to her. I see that he consults her before making plans. I see that he does not try to change her. It is weird, Mom, Michelle told me last week. With Robert, I always felt I had to be less so he could feel more. With Jason, I feel I can be everything I am. That is how love should be. My life. You should never make yourself small so someone else can feel big. We know little about Robert. Gabrielle tells us from time to time. He is still alone. He has had some girlfriends, but no relationship lasts. He continues blaming everyone except himself for his unhappiness. Mrs. Constance died last year. Until the end, she defended Robert. Until the end, she blamed modern women for not knowing how to be wives. Gabrielle finally gathered the courage to get divorced 3 years ago. Now she works again in the family business that was left in her hands after Mr. Ernest's death. Your mom inspired me. She told me at a dinner we had at the house. Seeing how she protected Michelle made me realize that I also deserved protection, even if I had to give it to myself. This afternoon, I am sitting in the patio of the house in Willow Creek. Elena is playing with her dolls near the fountain. Michelle is in the kitchen making lemonade. I look around, and I see everything we built from those ruins. I see a strong mother who raises her daughter with love and dignity. I see a happy girl who knows she is loved. I see a house full of life and laughter. And I think about that night at the Grand Estate reception hall, about the maid's uniform, about Robert's face when he said, "Perfect, she's going to need this back at the house." I think about how I took out the box with the documents, about how everything changed in that moment. And I realize that it was not the house that saved Michelle. It was knowing she had options. It was knowing she was not trapped. It was knowing her mother had loved her enough to give her the freedom to choose. Elena runs toward me. "Grandma, when I grow up, am I going to have a house too?" "Yes, my love. Your mom and I are going to make sure of that. So no one can lock me up?" I freeze. Michelle comes out of the kitchen. "What did you say, my heaven?" "I heard when you were telling Uncle Jason that my dad locked you up, and that is why you left." Michelle kneels in front of her. "Yes, my love, but that is over. And the important thing is that I learned something. I learned that never, never should we let someone take away our freedom. Do you understand?" "Yes, Mommy. And that is why we have this house. To always be free." "Exactly." Elena hugs her mom and then runs again to play. Michelle sits next to me. She takes my hand. "Thank you, Mom, for everything, for the house, for believing in me when I did not believe in myself, for staying that night, for all the nights. You have nothing to thank me for. You are my daughter. I am always going to protect you, and I am going to protect Elena. I am going to teach her what you taught me. That true love does not control. That freedom is not selfishness. That a woman must always have something of her own." We stay sitting watching how Elena plays. The sun is going down. The bougainvillea looks even more beautiful with the golden light of the sunset. And I think about all the women listening to this story, those who are in difficult marriages, those who are afraid to leave, those who think they have no options, I want you to know something. There are always options. There is always a way out. There is always hope. Sometimes we just need someone to remind us. Sometimes we just need a house, or a job, or a friend, or a mother who tells us, you can. You are worth it. You deserve to be free. That night at the reception hall, when I took those documents out of the blue velvet box, I did not know how this story was going to end, but now I know. It ended with freedom, with dignity, with love. And that is everything a mother can wish for her daughter. If my story helps a single woman open her eyes, it will have been worth it. If my decision inspires a single mother to protect her daughter, I will have fulfilled my purpose. Because in the end, true love is not controlling. True love is giving wings, and sometimes those wings have the form of a deed, of a house, of a way out. Thank you for listening to me until the end. If this story touched your heart, subscribe and hit the bell to listen to more stories of women who transform their pain into wisdom. Every day, a woman, a life lesson. Share this story with someone you love. Sometimes a story like this can change a whole day. God bless you, and until next time.